Buckeye Elementary staff. I'm Mike Lee, the Assistant Superintendent for Academic Programs and Professional Learning. This is take two because the lights went out in my office halfway through my last take. So let's see if I can make it through this one without that happening. Or maybe I just need to strategically wave my arms. I'm excited about what we're going to do today. And I wanted to personally introduce what you're going to be working on and kind of set the table for why. I think it's really important that we don't just have people do things. They need to understand why we're doing them. We don't have enough bandwidth to just do things to do them. We need to be strategic about what we do, and we have plenty of things that teachers need time and opportunities for. So to waste them on non-meaningful, unmeaningful things that don't have meaning, wouldn't make any sense. So I want you to understand what the purpose of today is. And it really centers around the idea of it's critical that we know what your perceptions are. Not that we guess we know, not that we think we know, that we actually know, that we're looking at real data, real feedback coming directly from you so that we can make decisions that aren't guesses. Part of the problem with doing it this way, or doing it without getting that kind of input, is a lot of things can happen. Quite often, leadership in business and education and any kind of field, really, it's very easy for them to kind of take input that they hear. It can be anecdotal. So-and-so said something to so-and-so, which ended up in the ear of the CEO or the superintendent or the assistant superintendent, whatever. And it comes in and it seems like it's bigger than it is. But it's really only 5 people. And it's coming off as, well, there's 100 people who feel this way. So then all of a sudden the whole organization does some big thing in response to all the people that are supposedly talking about one item, and it really wasn't everybody. So 90 other people are now dealing with something that really wasn't something that they were really focused on at that moment. And so they end up having to do something that's not really relevant to their work. Or things could be undersold, oversold. We don't know if we're only getting pieces anecdotally. Another thing that can happen is we're all very prone to something called confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is when you make assumptions about things in the world or your job or whatever, other people, and then when you see those things happen, when you see evidence that supports the belief that you already had, then it reinforces what you already thought. So for example, if I think a particular program is amazing and I just love the salesperson came in and gave a great program presentation and I'm convinced it's amazing, when I go out and visit sites, if we've implemented it, I'm only going to look, it's going to be a natural process for me to kind of remember the things that looked like evidence that the program was great. And I'm going to tend to kind of not pick up on and not internalize indicators that might say, hey, we need to do some work with this program because it's not all that you thought it was going to be. So we're by nature and by definition subjective, and we're trying to be objective. So one of the things that I need to know, and our whole department needs to know, and our whole district needs to know, is what are the perceptions and beliefs and needs of the people that we're trying to support. And so that's really the purpose of today. I can't give you your input to give me by guessing and by kind of making stuff up that's based on my belief system. I need to hear from you. Dr. Sandvik needs to hear from you. We want to hear from you. And so what we want to do is provide you a forum and a space to do that. Now, I know when people hear surveys, it's usually something that's on the list of things that cause eye rolls. It's somewhere between 5 and 7, I think, maybe 1 for some of you. But understand that they do have value if they're done correctly, if the questions are strategically designed, and then something is actually done with the data. Another eye roll inducer is when somebody says, well, we want your input. Well, we've heard that before, right? Typically that means somebody had it on their list of things to do, make sure you get input. You give your input, but nobody ever really does anything with it. Well, that is not the MO around here, and hopefully you're picking up on that as something that we believe, that input matters, and it needs to be listened to, considered, and then acknowledged. So for example, if you've been working with the math curriculum maps, you know, and you've given feedback, you know that either your feedback was actually put into the maps or is being put into the maps, or you've gotten a personalized response from our team saying, we looked at your thank you, we appreciate you taking the time. Here's why this was put here. We understand where you were coming from with that piece of feedback. It's going to be considered for this part instead. So either you're getting an explanation or you're actually causing change with your input. So it really does matter. And another thing that matters is your time. You're very busy. And the last thing we have is time to have you just do something that doesn't matter. So we're doing this today on company time, so to speak, as a way to kind of make sure you know that this matters to us. So what is it we're doing today, you ask? Well, it's that survey that I mentioned earlier. We're going to start doing this twice a year. And the data from this survey is going to drive our decision making with things that we do with you. So the quality of the data, the quality of your responses, the effort you put into it, the thoughtfulness that you put into this is going to affect your work context, right? So we're trying to really make decisions based on this. And then we're going to measure our growth over time. So for example, customer service is very big to me, very big to my department. Some of the questions you'll see in the survey are directly linked to customer service. If we see that the overall responses are not where we would like them to be, we're going to be making goals to do something about that. If we see that particular grade levels are struggling with supplies in a certain content area, we're going to make a goal to make sure we take care of that. So this information will really, really matter. So we'll be looking internally to see, can we make growth in those areas that we target and sustain any of the areas that appear to be going well. So this will really matter. Now the last thing that I'd like to mention about this survey. First, you're going to notice that it's kind of divided into sections. There's some very critical questions in here to us, and it's across the board. It's not all teaching and learning. We've got some equity questions that are really important, and the team that's working on equity issues in the district are going to take this data and make decisions with it. You're going to see a lot of stuff relative to teaching and learning, technology, all kinds of stuff. But one of the first things that usually comes up in surveys is people can be apprehensive about, well, I'm afraid to be honest because who knows what kind of, is there going to be retaliation or is somebody going to call me into their office because they didn't like my answers? So I'm going to give you a couple parts to this answer. The first one is, I don't really care who says what in terms of people, and no one up here really does. This data is not going to be used for anything relative to evaluations or anything. This is going to be used entirely as in terms of program improvement, support improvement. So you might ask, well, why not just do it completely anonymous? Well, it's kind of anonymous. So this is what you're going to see when you start. We do not ask you for your name, just to honor the fact that we understand that apprehension that people might have. And I expect that over time, once you see over the course of a couple years, or maybe it's just once or twice, that this data is only being used for that kind of thing and no one's been drugged down to the principal's office or the superintendent's office because of something they said, that people will be more confident and more comfortable providing information. But we honor the fact that may not be the case now. So we don't ask for your name. When I set up a Google survey, it says, do you want to collect the email addresses? The answer is no. We don't even have your email address. You'll know that that's the case because it doesn't anywhere ask you for your email address. You don't have to log in, sign into anything. It's an open survey with no login credentials required. So we are not capturing that information. Now, we do ask for demographic information. Now, the reason we do this is not because we are really bored and have nothing better to do and I'm dying to super sleuth it and figure out who said what. The reason is because to make good decisions with this data, we need to find out if it's not a great idea to just average out all the data and say all the teachers feel this way about X and all the teachers feel that way about Z, or all the teachers at this school feel this way, when it might simply be, well, let's look at right now, music teachers across the district are struggling with particular materials. Maybe they haven't gotten instruments they need or something like that. Or maybe it is more of a site issue. So if we have it, which site do you work at? That's so we can find out, somehow a shipment didn't make it to, the music instruments didn't make it to a particular school. So the reason we ask for that demographic data, grade level, school, is so that we can find out, is this something that spreads across multiple schools, multiple grade levels, multiple subject areas, or is it specific to something more targeted? Because what we don't want to do is react to a piece of data that doesn't apply to everyone. And again, this is how you end up in situations where you're getting a training or you're getting a resource or you're getting something that you don't need because we make bad decisions on bad data. So this is why we ask for you to give that demographic information. I respect the fact that some of you work in positions that if you give your demographic data, it would make it, if I were really looking, I could figure out who did it, right? There's only one music teacher at that school. I get that. So we are not making it required, right? So if you really don't believe what I'm saying and you don't trust me and you don't know me, I would understand why somebody might feel that way. I hope to convince you over time. But if you're uncomfortable, it is not a required field. You can leave a piece of that demographic information blank, which would make you one of multiple possibilities. That said, please know that the one downside to doing that is that if we are breaking the data down, because this will come back to us in a spreadsheet, we won't be able to include data if I'm saying, show me all how 6th grade teachers feel across the district, or show me how all math teachers feel across the district, or show me how all the teachers feel at a particular school. I won't be able to include the data of a person who doesn't give me their demographic information. So in some ways, it might remove some of your input from the conversation when we're trying to break it down by demographic. So it's not some sort of punishment or something where we're trying to leave you out. There's just, if I don't know what the job was for the person doing this piece of information, I won't know where to classify it. So I just wanted to be very transparent with you of what we're collecting, what we're not collecting, and for the information that we are, why we're doing that. So to close up, just to summarize, we want to hear from you. We want your input. We're making decisions based on this input. Goals are going to be built on this input. This is really important to all of us. Our goal and our job, and we only exist to support you and your work, and we want to make informed decisions. So I hope that you're comfortable with this. I hope that you will come to understand how we're going to use this information, and I hope that we will show you, rather than me just tell you, that we continue to demonstrate to you that we value your input. This is a process. As you know, many of us are new here. We've been empowered by Dr. Sandvik to do this kind of work, and we're excited about it. And you're going to see these positive opportunities for input, growth, improvement, strengthening of programs, everything over time. And we appreciate all you do. And this is just a chance for us to hear from you and start to really make sure we're doing what we need to do. So thank you. Please take your time with the survey, and I really look forward to going over that data and ultimately sharing that data. It will be transparent, and you can see what we're looking at and see the same things we're seeing in terms of areas to improve, things that we're proud of, and some of our goals. We'll share with you what our goals are as a department. So again, thank you. Have a great day.